Here, the night after WNBA Fight Night, Sophie Cunningham putting JC Sheldon in a clinch. Marina Mabrey targeting Caitlin Clark.
Oh, and Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected. If the officials saw that, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected.
Well, they're going to go and look at it.
All they had to do was just eject her. All they had to do was eject her, and none of this happens. If the referees had ejected Marina Mabrey, nothing else happens. The Sophie Cunningham situation does not happen.
So, Marina Mabrey has responded to to everything that's going on. Marina Mabrey just looked like she was just unhinged out there after looking at this man. The showdown between the Sun and the Fever turned into a complete circus. 6 technical fouls, 3 ejections, and 2 flagrants all in one wild night. But in the middle of that chaos came one explosive moment that had the internet throwing popcorn and picking sides. Marina Mabrey took a blatant cheap shot at Caitlin Clark, shoving her to the ground out of nowhere and somehow wasn't tossed. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham got booted without hesitation and fans were quick to slam the glaring double standard. Alright, here the night after WNBA Fight Night. Sophie Cunningham putting JCS Sheldon in a clinch. Marina Mabrey targeting Caitlin Clark. If you thought you were already furious, wait till you hear about Mabrey's reaction after the incident. Do you think the league should strictly enforce its rules and suspend Mabrey now? Let us know in the comments below. Let's go. Oh, and Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected. If the officials saw that Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected, well, they're going to go and look at it. All they had to do was just eject her. All they had to do is eject her and none of this happens. If the referees had ejected Marina Mabrey, nothing else happens. The Soviet coding situation does not happen. Then after all the dust settled, the league sneakily decided to reclassify Mabrey's foul as a flagrant 2. No press release, no dramatic announcement, just a quiet update tucked into the league site. So now the big question is, how did the refs miss it in real time? And why did it take an avalanche of outrage for the league to react? Even more importantly, will Mabrey face a suspension like commentators heavily hinted she should during the broadcast? So, like there are 4 players fined in that game. 4 players fined that game. But the referees, the scariest part about all this is that the referees came out with their report. They came out with their report and said, we went the contact made by Mabrey did not rise to the level of rejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant 2 penalty. And it was given a technical foul. Not even a flagrant. Stay awake. We'll get into exactly how and why the WNBA overruled its own officiating crew and whether that fix actually helped or just made things worse. But before we get there, let's break down the shove that ignited the firestorm. A lot of it is centered around the last 46 seconds where Sophie Cunningham hard fouls JCS Sheldon. She gets ejected, Jackie gets ejected. Does Lindsay? I think Lindsay gets ejected. And you know, in watching the broadcast, even the broadcasters at the time mentioned, if they would have just ejected Marina Mabrey, this probably wouldn't have happened. Let's call it what it was. A full-speed blindside hit. Caitlin Clark didn't even see it coming. She was just playing the game, head turned, and then bam. Ma la 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 launched her to the floor. It wasn't just another hard foul. It felt personal. The crowd erupted instantly, and so did the commentators. Everyone expected a flagrant 2, maybe even a fast-track ejection. But no, Mabrey walked away with a basic technical and the game carried on like nothing happened. The broadcasters stunned the players, furious fans absolutely losing it. So Caitlin Clark gets poked in the eye. Marina Mabrey doesn't even see what happens, and she just decides to clean Caitlin Clark out of it. And the referees just said, nah, it was not worth an injection. So Caitlin dribbles. Look at how far she is away from the ball, by the way. Look at how far she is away from the ball. Like, that's literally she's nowhere near the ball. She just jumps at her face and then she belly bumps Caitlin. Caitlin retaliates by shoving in an unsportsmanlike manner according to the referees. And then Marina comes from nowhere. Within minutes, The clip was everywhere. Social media blew up with people asking the same thing. How is she still in the game? What are the refs even looking at? It wasn't just Clark fans either. It was neutral observers, former players, analysts, everyone pointing out how the officials were losing grip on the game. Things only got more frustrating when you looked at the rest of the calls. Sophie Cunningham was tossed on the spot for a hard play that didn't come close to what Mabrey did. At this angle, you can see just how far JC Sheldon is away from the ball. The ball's here. She's hitting Kyan Clark in the face here. If you guys are looking at my cursor, I'm sorry I can't make this bigger. My cursor. She hits Kyan Clark here. The ball's here. The ball is 3 feet away from Caitlin Clark's face, and she just targets the face. She targets the face. Like, I don't know if there's any other way to describe it. Like, this is clearly she just lunged at her face. She went nowhere near the ball. She lunges forward. She absolutely, positively, zero doubts about it, lunges at Kyan Clark's face. The inconsistencies were impossible to ignore. Sophie got the boot instantly while Mabrey stuck around after what was clearly a more reckless and dangerous foul. The whole thing screamed uneven enforcement of the rules. I don't see how you can say that any other way. She literally lunged at her face, and then Caitlin's there. Caitlin's there walking away, and she belly bumps her. Like, by the way, Kane with the shove. Caitlin does not move JCS Sheldon. If you look at this angle, you can see Caitlin Clark does not move JCS Sheldon. They're like Caitlin shoved Sheldon. Caitlin literally JCS Sheldon's still moving forward. So, JC Sheldon is the one who initiates the contact, and then Chaser and Marina maybe comes from nowhere. People kept piling on asking, are the refs just spinning a wheel before each whistle? Because if the same standards were applied across the board, there's no way Mabrey should have been allowed to keep playing. But the inconsistencies didn't end at the final buzzer. Nope. That's when the WNBA's damage control kicked in. So yeah, she ended up stating this. Marina Mabrey's technical from last night's Fever Sun game has been upgraded to a flagrant 2. Oh man, the league told ESPN a flagrant 2 comes from a standard fine. Additionally, Sophie Cunningham was fined separately for her hard foul with 46 seconds to play. That's right. They came out later and said, actually, we've upgraded it to a flagrant 2, which, let's be real, is basically them saying, oops, our refs blew it. Had they made that call live during the game, Mabrey would have been ejected. No discussion needed. Fans saw it as an admission that the officiating crew dropped the ball, and not just slightly. They whiffed badly. People are calling for Sophie Cunningham's objection from the league. People are commenting under Marina Mabrey stuff. The league claimed that Mabrey's shove met the definition of excessive and unnecessary force. Okay, cool. But why wasn't that obvious in the moment? The refs had a front row seat, no blind spots. Anyone watching with one eye closed could tell it was over the line. Which raises a bigger issue. Are we dealing with just one bad call, or is the WNBA dealing with a full-blown officiating crisis? It is kind of, frustrating to see the hypocrisy like everywhere in all the spaces when it comes to the Indiana Fever, because I'm seeing the same people saying, and the same people in the media, the same people in social media, which social media doesn't really count and it shouldn't, but these are filtering to people in the mainstream media saying it was a physical league last season to Sophie should be ejected and her spot should be considered in the league, and calling her out on all these physical plays that were totally excusable until the Indiana Fever do them. And it wasn't just that moment. Let's not forget Caitlin Clark herself got hit with a technical for reacting after someone clawed her in the eye. Sophie Cunningham got fined and flagged for a play that didn't look half as vicious as Mabrey's. Every whistle felt like it came from a different rulebook. If Marie had been tossed when she should have been, the game would have had a very different tone. Instead, we got this patchwork fixed long after the damage was done. There's no way y'all coming after the game, and then now you're saying, oh, it should have been a flagrant, too. Oh, we should have. Look, you're catching the smoke, and now you want to change it. You need to do it during the game. All right. During the game. Go ahead and call it the way it is, man. Stop with the nonsense. Now everyone's wondering the same thing. How are players and fans supposed to trust what's happening on the floor when the rules seem to shift minute to minute? The divide between what officials do live and what the league does after review is only growing wider. And the kicker, the refs and league can't even seem to agree on what's worthy of a flagrant. That's not just a bad look, it's a crisis of credibility. So, let's cut to the chase. Who actually bears responsibility for this mess? The refs in the heat of the moment, or the league that swooped in? Only after the uproar. All eyes instantly shifted to referee Ashley Gloss, who after the final buzzer explained that Marina Mabrey's shift didn't meet the bar for a flagrant 2 or an ejection. That's why Mabrey walked away with just a technical foul and stayed in the game. Gloss was firm live. It didn't hit the threshold. The contact made by Mabrey did not rise to the level of an ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant foul penalty too. But less than 24 hours later, the WNBA quietly overruled its own official crew, bumping the penalty up to a flagrant 2. That flip-flop speaks volumes. It's not merely a correction,